How's it going, guys? Welcome to From the Balcony podcast with Sonny and Sam. I'm Sonny Reganovich.
And I'm Sam Dykema. Today is March 20th, and we're heading into the Sweet 16 this upcoming weekend. Wild first weekend of games. Upsets abound, as always. But it finally happened. The granddaddy of them all, 16-1. UMBC took down UVA. What do you think, Sonny?
Oh, no one ever said what would happen, but I will say Pablo Torre calls it every year. He always calls it 16-1, and that's pretty impressive. I'm glad it finally happened. It's one of those things that I think for maybe the rest of my life, I will remember exactly where I was when a 16 upset a 1.
Yeah, it wasn't like a spectacular game or anything by any means.
It was a terrible game, to be honest.
I didn't really enjoy watching it, but just because of the magnitude of it, and for the first 20 years of my life, 21 years of my life, people have been saying it'll never happen, and
it did.
Finally happened, and it wasn't the one that everyone thought. People liked the bet. A lot of people really liked Penn after the Ivy League tournament. It was not Penn, and it was UMBC.
And it wasn't an absolute beatdown the entire game.
It's just
I think people have heard enough about this game, though. It's been the number one thing in the news for however long. The Twitter account of the school, UMBC, has just been. I think they had like under 3,000 followers going into the weekend. Now they have like over 100,000 followers. It reminds me a lot of like the Florida Gulf Coast thing. Like that school's going to get a ton more like applications, yada yada. That's going to be remembered for the rest of my life.
It always helps when you can get a big win. But I think there's a lot more substance that we got from the first week. Besides that, as you saw, UMBC was still a 16 seed in the next round.
Yes, they were.
They just made everything that first game. For me, a lot of those upsets early on came down to the ones that I watched, just like some poor coaching down the stretch by the higher seeds in the matchups. I thought Xavier down the stretch versus Florida State, some things are just interesting decisions there. Like Florida State just kept running, and they didn't try anything to slow them down.
Right. They had their number, and it seemed like there was a massive lack of adjustments. It was kind of like my game of basketball is better than yours, and we're going to stick to it. And that came back to bite them in the butt in the end.
I think that was, I think you see that with a lot of teams. One of the big ones that I know that we also want to talk about was going down early in the second round. Michigan State went down. Tom Izzo, third straight year not making it to the Sweet 16.
So now can we say that Beilein's the best coach in the Big Ten?
I don't know. I think now it's in the current state, we have the Nassar case. We have all the things surrounding Michigan State. I think it's tough. I think if Izzo was coaching this team how he wants to coach it, this is a team that wins the tournament, goes very far. I think Bridges should not be playing the 3 for them.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely playing out of position during the tournament and for the second half of the season. I don't know. Part of me feels like it's just disrespectful to even say that Beilein's the best coach in the Big Ten with Izzo still in here. I mean, he's one of the best tournament coaches of all time. What do you think about that?
I think Izzo still holds the title all time, just like Coach K has it over, Roy Williams, I think, long term. But if you go the last 10 years, I'm probably going to take Michigan's NBA players, and I'm probably going to take Michigan's tournament runs. Obviously lost to Louisville in the championship, lost in a heck of a game the next year with Stauskas leading the way to Kentucky. And Beilein's really built a program that was struggling ever since kind of the Fab Five era to be relevant in the Big Ten. So, but long term, I mean, Izzo's still one of the only 5 coaches above 70% win percentage.
I think Izzo's still the man, and I think he will be until he definitely gets an interesting topic with Beilein, just because he's kind of flown under the radar on a national scale, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not going to say people forget about Michigan, but when you're talking about elite Big Ten teams when it comes to basketball, people tend to think of Michigan as a football school, and you just tend to kind of forget about Michigan as a basketball school. And I definitely think it's a topic, and I definitely think you can argue that Beilein's the best, but for right now, Izzo's the king. And until Beilein does something big, takes him to a Final Four, maybe wins a national championship, I think Izzo's going to sit on that throne for a while. But it's just really interesting to me because the Big Ten's such a big, basketball conference, and come tournament time, Beilein's definitely in the talks.
Yeah, I think Big Ten's really interesting. You got a lot of coaching turnover the past couple of years. You've got Patino's son at Minnesota, Archie Miller obviously here at IU, and I think you've got some young promising coaches paired with now a fully developed B-line. Obviously, we know what Izzo is, and you also have Ohio State's new coach as well, Holtman, who brought them to the tournament.
Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Nothing to show for it.
Nothing
to show for it. But I think that was my big takeaway. Was there's just you can see, and it's what we see with college basketball. It's an emphasis on the coaches, but some coaches really were ready to prepare their teams, and some, even of the best, most talented teams, were absolutely not, in my opinion.
And as much as everything falls back on the coaches, in the end, it's always the coach's fault, no matter what. You always got to look at the times where teams are just not hitting shots, the team's just not moving. I mean, Virginia, I want to say it's a coaching thing, but in the same breath, like, they just did not play well. The players on the court did not get the job done. In situations like that, man, I feel for the head coaches, because he may not have done his job to the full effect, but I mean, his players also did not get the job done either.
Well, and that's where I feel for Lon Kruger in Oklahoma. You've got Trae Young. That's all you've got, and we've talked about him before. But that game didn't impress many people who were defending Trae Young, I don't think. I mean, he did what he does, but he lost.
And I think that takes us maybe into another subject: stock up, stock down for players or anybody else in the tournament. Who do you think had maybe their stock up so far, and whose stock fell?
If you're going individually, we obviously touched on Trae Young. You hear everyone talking about it. I think DeAndre Ayton, the exact concerns NBA scouts have brought up were the exact things he did wrong. So that's got to be one where that's a check mark against him. And you're not feeling too confident if you were a top 5 team wanting to take DeAndre Ayton, I don't think.
I agree. I also think, though, I mean, how much do these teams take this into account? Because as much as DeAndre Ayton had those flaws, I mean, he's still one of the most dominant big men we've seen in a long time. And at one point, you just kind of like look past his flaws during that one tournament game where he lost, which is terrible. But I don't want to say that his stock is completely down in the NBA draft. Maybe from a fan perspective.
No, I think concerns are raised. Maybe is a better way to put it.
That's a good point.
I think it's kind of like you hear it more in the NFL, but Ayton's kind of a deal where you've got a really huge physical specimen, really good at one thing, but like kind of plays off defensively, and could be a phenomenal shot blocker, phenomenal rebounder in his frame. You'd have to assume with his athleticism.
Yeah, it's unmatched, kind of, honestly. But I do want to bring up, for me, stock up Marvin Bagley. I mean, he's playing out of his mind. I mean, well, I won't say that actually. He's not playing out of his mind. He's playing exactly the way we expect him to, and he's
playing like he cares.
Yes, he's playing like he cares, and I would not be surprised for many people to have him getting drafted over Ayton.
I think combined with Bagley's upside, which I think you have a lot of NBA scouts already saying is higher than Ayton's long term, combined with the fact that he was an absolute animal against Rhode Island. I mean, he tore Rhode Island apart in that second round game or third round game. I keep switching up the rounds on me every year.
I really like the way you said that he's playing like he cares, because he really is, and that's, in my opinion, that's absolutely something you have to take into account when you're drafting a player, because as much as Ayton is a first overall worthy player, their mindsets seem to be very different. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I think what I saw what you still see from Bagley, God forbid Duke has to play a man-to-man in the rest of this tournament. Bagley's still got that hole in his game, and I think he is a little covered up on the defensive end compared to Ayton because of the zone. But Bagley has taken over the alpha role. I think Duke, you had a little fighting with Grayson, who needs to do it. It's Bagley, and Grayson's a great player. He's a senior. He's going to be perfect for a run if Duke is to make this run. I think I like them out of that region a lot right now, and not necessarily putting them in my Final Four, but Bagley's been the leader so far, and he's carrying the torch. So
I agree. I also think Trae Young, we spoke on him a little bit. I kind of want to go back on that. He is probably one of the more interesting NCAA players I've seen in the last since I can remember. To be honest, I can't really think of anyone more interesting. So dominant and so like versatile. Everyone's saying he's Steph Curry. We talked about that in our last podcast, but his team just could not win. And good players find a way to win. And it's not just an NCAA tournament loss. His regular season just fell apart at the second half.
I tend to think that too. I think you saw him in that 10-7 matchup, I believe is what he was in the first round. And it's like that's a position we've seen like an individual player. It was from the 7 seed, granted. It was Kemba. I think they were 7. Yeah. The Shabazz year, maybe. I get those 2 years confused. But like that's a position where you see teams make a run with an individual player to a Sweet 16, like because if you get past that 2 seed, then you've got a 2 seeds path. And I just don't. He didn't play like that was at stake. In my opinion.
What was Davidson? What was their seed?
I believe they were a 7.
Yeah. So
I mean, it goes right with the Steph Curry analogy, and it's what goes right with the Steph Curry analogy too is the coverage of him. I mean, everyone loved him, and now it's draft season. Now that he is out of the tournament, and all I've seen are missed shots on ESPN from Trae Young. He's very unsure for the NBA. So I think a lot of the narrative is flipped with Trae Young. I like to stay down the middle. I think he's still probably going to be a good NBA player. You can obviously shoot the ball. He was long term. I don't know if he's a winner. I don't know if he's a winner.
He was America's hero first half of the season, and he kind of turned into the villain. I've seen a lot of America kind of pass on him and say, you know what, he's not as the elite player we thought he was. He can score the basketball, but he can't win, and that's what people want, a winner.
Absolutely. Someone that did some winning for another team that I think stock up this week. 2 teams actually now matching up in the Sweet 16. Stock up is zone defense is Sonny.
Yeah.
Duke and Syracuse making it work yet again. What do you think about that?
I mean, we talked about Boeheim. Him running zone defense. It's crazy to me how well he gets these guys to buy into his product. It's kind of unlike anything you ever see because a lot of teams, you go in, you don't know if maybe they'll run zone for a half, and then man, when you play Syracuse, you know what you're getting, and he coaches his players so well that this year in and year out, he's an 11 seed this year, and here he is in the Sweet 16 year in and year out. He's getting his team in, and zone defense definitely stack up. I cannot wait to watch the Syracuse Duke game, both of them running zone because you don't get to see it too often nowadays.
I think the zone-to-zone matchup will be interesting. I think with the matchups, Coach K could try to go a little man to get his team some experience because I think Coach K is too smart to think he can run zone the whole way. Right. I think he knows that he's going to have to get these. And Syracuse, not the most dangerous offensive team. That's why they're an 11 seed. Why some people didn't want them in the tournament. Could be if Duke gets up early, I think you see man-to-man there, but. If that can stay a close game, that'll be a wild finish, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to fall back onto Duke and how they shoot. They're good. They have plenty of shooters on the team. They can shoot the ball. I think Duke's going to go ahead and just run away with this game, but I'm very excited to watch it. Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. I think Duke probably wins the matchups of the zones, but you can't underestimate the fact that stifled a Michigan State team, and it got Duke to where it is as a 2 seed pretty easily without much holes in their game, which we haven't always seen from Duke early in tournaments. So I think overall stock up for zone defenses and some slight hits to stock for the biggest NBA names, but nothing too major. And I don't see anyone right now that I think is shooting up. A name that I think you got to keep in mind is anyone on Kentucky right now, to be honest, because of Coach K's Coach Calipari's track record, but I think also Wagner in Michigan is going to be a guy that could rise up some people's draft boards. In today's NBA, he's looked like a stretch four to me.
I agree.
That could be around.
Yeah, I mean, like you spoke about earlier, the tournament, you don't really see the guys in the lottery picks fall out of the lottery too often. But what you do is you see a lot of guys' names come up that aren't household names. Play out of their minds and kind of get their name out there.
I think a lot of this country's seen that with Villanova's team. They've got 2 studs in Brunson and Bridges.
Yeah,
and not a lot of people watch them a lot.
Those guys are beasts. Villanova is definitely a team to watch out for. One player I am very, very impressed with. I hate his guts. I hate his guts so much, but Shea Gilgeous-Alexander has been incredible this tournament. I hate him. I do not want to see him succeed, but I have to respect his game.
It's tough to root for Kentucky.
It is.
It's really tough to root for Kentucky. He's, the one and done. He is what Kentucky kind of embodies, but he is a heck of a basketball player. And
he gets
first 2 games, he gets buckets. That's the quickest way.
He's a certified bucket getter, and he's a cocky player. I've seen him on multiple occasions getting a little, trouble.
He draws.
He draws fouls. He starts getting into it with guys, and then he raises his hands like, "Oh, I didn't do anything." I hate him. I hate everything he stands for, but I have to respect his game. I've been very impressed with him because I didn't really watch him that much throughout the regular season. But
and you're high on Kentucky.
I am high on Kentucky,
largely because of him. Speaking of that, you like Kentucky as one of your people moving forward, right?
Yep.
Who else you got?
I think that Kentucky's going to move forward. I think Michigan's going to make it out. I think Villanova is going to make it out, and Duke out of the Midwest is going to make it out.
Okay. Yeah, I have the left side of the bracket the same as you. I really like Michigan. I think Kentucky has a path. People are saying it's going to be really easy for Kentucky. I don't think it's going to be really easy. I think that Kansas State team is physical with a lot of seniors. That's not going to be an easy out in a tournament. You saw them obviously handle UMBC and make them look like a 16 seed, I think. I don't think Kansas State played their best game by any means, but they dominated the whole game.
I know you talked for a little bit about how much you like Nevada, but with those other people, I think Kentucky has had an absolute cakewalk to the Final Four. Kansas State, they may have looked good, they may have looked physical, but they did play a 16 seed. And they did play Creighton.
Creighton was a good 8.
Creighton was a good 8, but they didn't strike me as a team that would make a run at all. So while that was a good win, I was impressed with it, but I wasn't astonished by it. And then they move on. They just play a 16 seed, take care of them, and now they got Kentucky, and I think Kentucky's going to go ahead and run them out of the gym. And then after that, you said you like Nevada.
I think Nevada's got a good team. I think the 2 twins they have, or the brothers, are really talented. They played at NC State formerly, and now they're out in Nevada. They were really impressive in the win over Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati did outplay them a lot of that game, and I think they kind of had the same similar game for me. They were right back to back, I think, or maybe at the same time slot. But Xavier, Florida State, and Nevada, Cincinnati, those are both games where I felt like the Ohio team kind of just lost it late, the higher seed. But Nevada has talent, and I think they're going to easily handle Loyola. I hope. I mean, who knows? Loyola just keeps their run going. But on the other side of the bracket, I differ from you a little bit. I don't like it, but I put Purdue in my Final Four.
Yeah, you better not like it.
I think Purdue's just got a complete team. I think Haas is a huge wild card. And then I've got Kansas. I think Kansas can beat the Duke zone. I've got the shooters.
Okay.
As far as a potential Purdue Final Four, what do you think about that? I know you don't like it. No way.
No, I don't think so. I don't like Purdue at all. I think them losing Isaac Haas has been tragic. Kind of like I talked about Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I hate Purdue, but I respect their game. They were amazing this year. But I think them losing Isaac Haas is just way too big of a blow. He's such a big piece of their offense. The one thing that can save them is Matt Harms. That Isaac Haas would get tired. They just take him out of the game and put in another 7'3" center.
Yeah.
Not as good.
That luxury.
Not
a backup 7-footer.
Yeah. Now they don't have a backup 7-footer, but I think Isaac Haas is just too much of a big blow for them.
He was so important to the inside out.
He was
presence that they had, and so important to freeing up Thompsons and Edwards and the other Edwards.
I think one of the most important things that he did throughout the year is just absolutely beat down the other team's big guys. I mean, you watched it game in and game out. These guys just trying to push him around. It's like you're not going to push around a 7'2", 300 guy for 40 minutes a game, and now they don't have that luxury. They'll have Matt Harms, but he's so much less of a physical player. He's more of a finesse guy. So we'll see how they deal with that. Coach Painter, not that great in the tournament. What was he, like 15 and 11?
Yeah, 14 and 11.
So we'll see.
I don't know. That's the thing with Purdue that I don't. In Michigan, we both have Michigan in our Final Four. We talked about it earlier. Don't need to harp on it again. But like Michigan, like I know out of the you have Mark Few at Gonzaga in that bracket too. I know Michigan. I know the two coaches who are like going to. In the Midwest, you have Bill Self, you have Boeheim, and you have Coach K. Like one of those guys are going to get out. Painter's the least trustworthy of Bob Huggins, Jay Wright, and Texas Tech's been a complete out of nowhere this year in the Big 12 as far as the program, but they're talented. And then you've got Huggins and Jay Wright, and then waiting for you.
We'll see. Painter has something to prove this year, and it'll be interesting to see if he can pull it out and see if his players step up for him. I will go back and I'll say I really want Loyola Chicago to win against Nevada. I really do. I watched them growing up, being from the region. I saw them play Valparaiso a few times, and I think that's the best Cinderella team. Yeah, UMBC.
They've been a great story.
Yeah, UMBC, but I don't know. Does one win consider?
I don't count it. I don't count it. I think you got to make it to the next weekend.
I agree.
If you lose 2 days later, it's like
I'm with you. So I think Loyola Chicago has been the best Cinderella team. Really, the only kind of Cinderella team I would say in the bracket. The
only true outside of Nevada, the team they're playing, the only true mid-major Cinderella. Well, the seeds might suggest some other.
And then you got
other people.
Sister Jean, America's sweetheart now. So I want to see him go far, and I hope they beat Kentucky. I hope they beat Nevada. I hope they beat Kentucky, but it just doesn't seem likely.
Yeah, and then the couple matchups in particular that I like in the next round. I think the two best games are going to be A&M versus Michigan and Nova versus West Virginia. What do you think about either of those games?
I haven't gotten to watch A&M play too much this season, but they seem to close out games very well, and that's so important, especially against a team like Michigan.
They didn't let off the gas versus UNC, which is a good team, and you can't do it.
And that's something we see so often. It's just teams letting off the gas. So they can close out games. They've proved it. That's very important against a team like Michigan. We'll see. Villanova, West Virginia, I don't think that'll be that great of a game. I think Villanova is probably going to take care of them.
Okay, the reason I like the West Virginia and Villanova matchup so much is you got to love Press Virginia, A. And B, I think Villanova, you have Brunson, you have Bridges. Those are capable guards. And Kansas is a team with capable guards, and that's the kind of the team in the Big 12 that I think you saw handle West Virginia the best. But this is a lot of those guys on West Virginia. Feels like it's their 6th year. I mean, I've seen this West Virginia team play for a long time. It feels like it's one of those teams. And Huggins just has those years every once in a while. Like I think 10 years ago or whatever, he beat Kentucky. Like he could make his sneaky run, and I think this is the team that actually has isn't just the press. They're not just they're beyond. They have other layers to them. Carter as a senior is a great scoring option, obviously, alongside Miles. And their big guys are less than what they've been, but to beat Villanova, it's not necessarily what you need. You don't necessarily need the big guys.
And I guess now that you brought it up, I'm not going to put that against. I think Huggins is one of the most underrated and most exciting coaches in NCAA basketball. So we'll see what he can do.
I think there's a lot of good matchups coming up for the Sweet 16. I know we're excited for these games to just get underway Thursday. Honestly, by the time we have a next podcast, I will know our Final Four. Hopefully, one of us is right. I know my bracket at the beginning of the tournament is all gone.
Yeah, that.
So thanks, Tar Heels. With that being said, anything else you've got going forward in the rest of the tournament, Sonny?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. It's been an exciting tournament. We'll see what happens from here on out, but I really don't hope I see the big dogs, Kentucky, Nova, Kansas, or Duke. I don't want to see any of them in the Final Four or championship, but I think at this point I'm willing to pen it in that Kentucky, Duke are going to make it to the championship.
National championship. That's fair enough.
I'm so confident in that right now.
I'll put
and that would hurt my heart to watch that game. I don't even know if I'd watch it.
I'll throw Michigan, Kansas in my championship, and I'll say Kansas probably gets the win there. I have no idea, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. With that being said, this has been From the Balcony with Sonny and Sam. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.